Okay guys, welcome to this Friday's Friday Waffle. It's a cracking day outside actually. It's very cold, but it's nice and bright and sunny, so we can't complain about the weather. Hope you've had a good week. What have I been doing with myself? As usual guys, a quick update on the job front. This thing is dragging on and on and on and on and on. We were told we were going to find out the middle of this week, or sorry, towards the end of this week, whether we were successful or not. It's now Friday, I've heard bugger all. I did contact a guy, one of the senior managers, and he told me he was having a chat with one of the directors, and it's apparently now going to be next Tuesday we're going to find out. One of my sort of colleagues from the old company, he's been appointed, and he's been making, he's basically been telling the senior management or director level guys that they're making a mistake with a lot of the appointments. So I don't know whether or not they're rethinking their strategy about the structure, who they're going to get in place. I'm hoping that's the case, and it might be that something else could come out of the woodwork rather than me just relying on this one job. But as of today guys, I still haven't a clue whether I've got a job or not. The funny thing is, my consultation period, which was 45 days, actually ran out on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday it was. Now we got a briefing thing sent to us about 2 weeks ago telling us that Wednesday was going to be the last day of consultation, and as of Thursday we would either be put on our notice or, you know, the consultation period would be extended. Now Thursday was yesterday, it's come and gone, nobody's been in touch with the company. It really is a bloody shambles. But anyway, so that's that guys. Still don't know where I stand job wise, which is just what you don't want in the run up to Christmas, you know, it's all shite. So anyway, that's that. What have I been doing on a gaming front? I don't know if I've just got my phone at my side here, not that the phone ever rings or does anything. Yeah, on a gaming front, what have I been doing? I've been playing more Grand Theft Auto 5, still loving it. It's the first Grand Theft Auto game that I've really played for any length of time, and I must admit it's pretty damn violent, with a lot of sexual innuendo, not even innuendos, sexual references, but the violence is pretty up there with anything that I've seen. I saw on the internet yesterday, apparently, is it Australia, I think it is, some chain of shops have banned the game because of the violence towards women, the way it portrays women. I think they're referring to, apparently you can pick up like a prostitute in the game and then you can beat her up. Now I've never done that. The thing is guys, I mean, I'm we're all sensible adults here. We know that these are just games. I don't mind admitting, I mean, I've been playing over the last couple of days at nights. I've been playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and rather than doing any missions, excuse me, rather than doing any missions, I've just been running about and making an arse of myself, just making a complete nuisance of myself. I was running about punching everybody, and then obviously the police started chasing me, and I was just shooting everybody in sight and having an enormous amount of fun. And eventually I hid in a sort of shopping centre and got blown to bits. But you know what, I'm not like that in real life, as you can hopefully imagine from my YouTube videos. We're all adults. You know, we know the difference between video games and real life. I can't condone violence in any shape or form. I hate it in the real life, but this is a video game and we know it's a video game. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, I suppose weird. I mean, shooting people in video games is one thing. Where do you draw the line? Is it only a matter of time before we start getting like child abuse taking part in videos? So yeah, I suppose there is a line between decency, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, what's your thoughts on video game violence? I know the the infamous, it was one of the Call of Duty games, I don't know what one it was on the Xbox 360, and it had the infamous level where you were basically working undercover for this terrorist organisation, and it's a level and it's in the airport, and you've basically got to run about and just shoot innocent bystanders. I don't know if there's children involved, whatever, but you're basically shooting everybody, just innocent people, so that you can be undercover. Now I remember getting to that level and realising what was involved, and I just switched off after that. I do know that they actually put an option that you could skip that particular level because there was they obviously realised that it was going to cause a bit of a controversy. But yeah, I must admit, after that I just stopped playing the Call of Duty games. I don't know, I just didn't get on with it at all. But what's your opinions on video game violence? I mean, we know it's video games. I mean, is there an acceptable level of violence, or should we start censoring video games? I don't know, what's your thoughts, guys? As I said, I'm not heavily into the violence aspect of video games, so it's not really something that concerns me too much, but we know at the end of the day it's just pixels, but does that make people go out and kill people in real life? I don't think so. You've got to be a bit mentally deranged to go and do something like that. I don't believe for 1 second that watching a film or playing a video game is going to make you go and gun people down. Anyway, give me your thoughts on that, guys. Right, what else have I been doing? I've been playing a fair bit of Geometry Wars 3. I did a mashup of it earlier this week. It's a brilliant game, utterly fantastic. I'm not convinced it's much of a step up from the first two that came out in the Xbox 360. I've also heard it is available on the 360, and I said I don't think graphics are going to be much better, probably slightly more refined than the sort of the PS4 and Xbox One, but it's a great game. If you like your twin shooter games, guys, then go and grab it. Yeah, I've been playing a fair bit of that. That's been it. There's not been an awful lot been happening on the sort of gaming front. Right, I'm going to pause this for 2 seconds, guys. Right, excuse me. Now I say this every week, but this is not a big list. I was kind of struggling to think of topics to talk about this week. Right, the first one I've got now. If anybody watched my waffle last week, I was gibbering on about if companies were to re-release old hardware, would it be a viable market? And very, very interestingly, about 2 or 3 days after I made the video, what happens? A company decide to... Oh, that's my phone. Back in 2 seconds, guys. Right, guys, it was the wife. Why is it women insisting, telling you over and over and over again the things they want you to do? I'm like, I know, I've got it written down, I'm on it. Anyway, what was I talking about? So I was talking about, is there a market, do you think they would ever re-release old hardware? And lo and behold, a company who are apparently affiliated to Sir Clive Sinclair have decided through, it's not Kickstarter, it's not an official Kickstarter, but it's called a crowd, what do they call it again? A crowd-funded project or some damn thing. Basically it's Kickstarter, and what they're going to bring out is what they've called as the Sinclair Spectrum Vega. Now what this is basically a Spectrum hardware, and it's going to be, it's only got, now what's it got? It's got a little gamepad and it's got 5 keys in it. Now my first impression was gamepads in 16-bit or 8-bit computer games just don't work. They really don't. I mean, I've played a lot of emulators using an Xbox 360 controller, excuse me, and using a gamepad. You can maybe play the odd platform game, but trying to do, like, can you imagine playing Night Lore using a gamepad, and it's like, the up, down, left and right. It's not even a gamepad, it's like 4 individual keys sort of thing. I just don't think that's going to work. why they couldn't have put a joystick interface built into it, you know, seems cuckoo to me. I mean, alright, there's going to be people out there that, well, probably unlikely enough, but I was going to say there's probably people out there who may buy it and they don't have a 9-pin joystick, because let's face it, 9-pin joysticks are now antiques. You can't get a 9-pin joystick unless you go on eBay, so maybe that's why they've decided to build in the thing. By all means, put a gamepad in it, but at least put an interface so that you can connect a joystick. Now the second thing that became apparent to me is the Spectrum, by its very nature, used to utilise a lot of keys. You know, games. I mean, when I configured the MameCab to try and run my Spectrum emulator, it was a bit of a logistical nightmare because so many games use different keys. I mean, the Ultimate games, they used to use like 1 for cursor, 2 for whatever, 3 for Kempson, 4 for Sinclair, 5 for keys. So you had to have like access to the 1 to 5 buttons, 0 to start, J for joystick, K for Kempston. There's loads of different key combinations that you have to use for Spectrum games. So how they're going to get around that using, you know, 5 buttons is anyone's guess. The other thing as well is they claim it's going to come with 1,000 games pre-installed. Now, as anybody sort of, you know, who a few of you are probably aware, there was a Elite we're going to bring out. It was basically an actual Spectrum keyboard, but it was just going to be a Bluetooth controller, and you connected it to a tablet, any sort of like device that can use a Bluetooth connector, and basically they were going to just have this thing as a Bluetooth keyboard. But what the guy omitted to do was he advertised it was going to come with these games, but he was basically using games that had been written back in the day by people, and he hadn't got any authority. He hadn't got any like you know, he hadn't been given authority to use games. He wasn't even going to be bloody paying royalties or anything. So he was effectively using games without permission of the owners. Now it'd be interesting to know how on earth this new crowdfunded thing can include 1,000 games. Are they going to personally contact 1,000 different programmers or whoever owns the rights to these games and get the permission? It's a grey area. I know you can also add in extra games using an SD card. So I must admit, when I first saw it on whatever day it was, Tuesday, Wednesday or something this week, I was like, oh, I'm going to get one of these. That looks awesome. Until I actually started looking at the thing and reading about it. Then the big thing for me was the price. They want £100 for this thing. Now I know these Kickstarter things are never cheap. They're just not, you know what I mean, because you're having to pay for them to fund how to make the thing. But anyway, £100 for a device that can that is not a Spectrum. Let's be honest, it's not going to be a Spectrum. It's a device that lets you play Spectrum games. Well, you can go and pick up a tablet for 50 quid, get yourself a little Bluetooth controller, or else you can probably connect a PlayStation 3 controller and it'll do just the same thing. Anybody that's really into retro games is going to prefer one of the proper keyboards. I mean, I've got one. Not that I need to let you see what a Spectrum looks like, but I've got about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these bad boys. That's the real deal. That's what you want. I mean, you can pick up one of these for, I don't know, probably 20-30 quid or something. You know, why would you want to buy this other thing and when it's only going to play, you're only going to be able to, you know, you can't use a joystick. Half the games probably won't work because you've got to press a specific key. I don't know whether, I mean, in fact, it's unlikely they're going to go in and adapt every single game to work with the sort of the 5 keys that come with this thing. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it, guys? It sounded like a good idea, but I think I've probably answered one question from last week. you know, why reinvent the wheel if people, it's going to be a niche market for this thing, and anybody that's going to want one is already going to have an original Spectrum. I mean, you can pick up a set of Spectrum for 20-30 quid. You can use an app for the your iPhone, and you can just basically play games for nothing on it. So yeah, I don't know, it's I think probably selling these kind of things isn't a viable option. Don't get me wrong, if they'd actually brought out a proper Spectrum, just like that, the actual Spectrum, and included games with it, then I may have bought one somewhere. In fact, I probably would have bought it. But bringing out what's just basically like a half-arsed, cut-down version of a Spectrum, nah, it's not for me. It's not for me. But interestingly, I see. I think there was it 1,000 of the devices initially on offer for £100, and apparently they've got rid of them all. So there's always 1,000 people out there wanting to buy it. I'm guessing it's going to primarily be collectors. You know, I mean, there's no doubt they'll no doubt become very collectible and probably worth quite a bit of money. But nah, if you want to play Spectrum games, go on eBay, get yourself a Spectrum, rubber keyed Spectrum 48K, get yourself a joystick interface, you know, and just go down that road. So yeah, that's that one, guys. I'm just going to pause it a second. Sorry about that. I know it's only a brief second in this video that I've been away, but I've actually been away for about half an hour on the phone. Totally forgetting what I was talking about. So anyway, this Spectrum thing, Vega, I personally don't think it's something that retro people would want. What are your thoughts on it, guys? Are you going to buy one? Do you think it's a waste of money? Do you think it's overpriced? It's not for me. I'll pass, thanks. Right, the other sort of big news, if that's the right word to use, retro sort of gaming wise, is the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, which I'm looking at there, the grey slab, is 20 years old. Yep, 20 years old. I honestly can't believe it's 20. I mean, that's just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I still, having been involved in video games since the sort of very early 80s, I was lucky enough to be around when the very first sort of computer games kicked off. I look upon the PlayStation as being very much the sort of first, if this makes sense, the first generation of next gen. I mean, I look upon the PlayStation as not really retro. It's quite a powerful machine, and I remember, I mean, I've got fond memories of reading reviews of it in computing video games, and then when it was eventually released in the UK, I went up to Toys R Us in Livingston with £354.99, I think it was, in my hand. And I got the PlayStation Destruction Derby. Did I get another game? Did I get Tekken? I can't remember what was Tekken. Did that come out a wee while after? I can't remember, but anyway, I remember buying it like it was yesterday. And to think that it's 20 years old, it's just 2 decades ago. It's just mind blowing. And what is even more mind blowing to me is there's if you went into a pub, if I went in the pub tonight, chances are there's going to be a shitload of people, guys, who are standing drinking, and they were born after the PlayStation was released. It's just absolutely mental. I just can't quite get my head around that, you know, somebody would be younger than the PlayStation. But that's a big part of getting old. I mean, my dad used to say it, my granny used to say it, you know, when I was a kid, and I used to like look at people who I thought were old, who were maybe in their 40s, 50s, and you know, they would say to me, as the older you get, the faster time goes, and it is absolutely true. It is the most truest thing ever. Time just accelerates stupidly. It really does, and it's frightening where time goes. I mean, you may see I've not got the beard. I've not got the beard on today. It's the reason I grow a beard is twofold. One, the main reason is I'm too lazy to shave. My stubble's like bloody barbed wire, so I can't just use, I can't just shave at the sink. I've got to have a shower or whatever it is to shave. But I'm quite lazy. I don't actually mind having a beard. But and secondly, because I do a lot of running, and especially in this colder weather, it helps to keep my face quite warm, which is good. But it does start to annoy me, and I must admit, when I look back at videos of myself with a beard, it's I've got a lot of grey underneath. Not too bad there, but a lot of grey underneath, and it just makes me look really, really old. Which I am, I suppose, but I don't see myself as being old. But I'm just kidding myself. So yeah, why am I talking about beards? Yeah, I'm talking about the PlayStation being 20. That's just mental. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Well, not that have you got any thoughts on how old the PlayStation is? I mean, it really does. Time has just accelerated, and to think that it's now 2 decades old is mental. Now, another bit of kind of PlayStation news. I see, to celebrate the PlayStation being 20, Sony are releasing a limited edition PlayStation 4 in the style of a PlayStation. Again, it's just it's not something that I would go out and buy. Apparently it's very limited edition. They're only releasing so many. I don't know how much it's going to sell for. I'm guessing it's just going to be the same price. But is that something you would go out and buy? I mean, if I didn't have a PlayStation 4 and I saw that in the shop, I would maybe be tempted just for novelty value. But again, it's just one of these things. I always think it's just another marketing ploy to get people to buy stuff. But then that happens all the time. Interestingly, I was reading on the internet last night. Apparently, I don't know how they get the figures, but apparently 1 in 3 people who bought a TV in the Black Friday sale last week, they're actually returning them. People have realised that they wasted their money buying stuff that they simply don't need, and they now want to return it. So yeah, there you go. Let your lesson be learned. Right, guys, I'm kind of waffling on a wee bit here on a tangent. So yeah, I've discussed the Spectrum Vega. The pen, it works. Check. PlayStation 20 years old. Check. Excuse me. Limited edition PlayStation 4. Check. Now I was playing a game. What was I playing? On the Commodore 64. I was playing Cauldron. You're probably aware of the game. It was released by Palace Software. Came out for the Spectrum Amstrad. You play the part of a witch, and it's just the most difficult game ever. It really is. As soon as you try and take off, you're killed. You're just constantly surrounded with baddies. You don't have like a light. You don't have a power bar or anything. It's just death instantly. Literally last a minute if I'm lucky. And it got me thinking about games. What games have you played that you would say are the most difficult 8-bit, 16-bit games? Or not even, it doesn't even have to be limited to 16-bit or 8-bit games. What games would you say are absolutely tough as old boot nails? Or tough as old boots, I should say. Cauldron says that was a fiendishly difficult game. Another game which I think I did a mashup of many moons ago was Battle Squadron. Now I had that on the Commodore Amiga, and it's a great game, very very playable, and it came out, it got released on the Sega Mega Drive, so I eagerly powered it up thinking it's going to be a better game, better graphics, and yeah, it is, but it is just impossible. I can urge you to fire it up in an emulator and play it and see how long you last. It starts off, the first maybe minute is alright, it's quite playable, you can get into it. Then the difficulty level just gets ramped up tenfold and it's impossible. I mean, I'm fairly proficient at sort of shoot 'em up games, but I can't last any more than probably 90 seconds in this game. Try it. It's called Battle Squadron on the Sega Mega Drive. Please go and do and have a blast at it. See what you think. It's just the most difficult shooter game I've ever played. Don't know why they did that. I mean, arcade games are designed to make money. Yeah, they're designed to get you in, to pull the person in, get the money, kill you, get you to put more money in. So I completely understand why arcade games are difficult. You know, because they're designed to make money. They don't want people to last a long time at them. But home conversions, I mean, it's a fine line, but making a game too easy or too hard. I mean, we've all played games that we've bought, you know, you've spent a lot of money getting it, and you complete it after half an hour, and you just feel completely let down, and what a waste of money that was. I mean, the classic example of a game that I did that on, we bought, me and my mate used to, we used to chip in money each month, and we'd buy one Amiga game, and then he would get to keep it. Then the following month we'd chip in, we would decide on a mutual game, and I would get to keep it. And this one particular game was Street Fighter, the original Street Fighter, which was absolute pants. But we got back from Edinburgh, he went to put the kettle on, make a cup of tea for us, and I completed the game. I'd completed it. By the time he made the cup of tea and got back to my bedroom where I was playing it, I'd completed the game. It was so easy. So yeah, you don't want a game that's piss easy, but then conversely you don't want a game that's just impossible to play. And like I say, Cauldron is one of them, and what do you call it, Battle Squadron is another. They're just impossible. The other game, what was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, it was an arcade game, but even the home conversions are like that, and it's Ghosts and Goblins. Ghouls and Ghosts and Goblins, they have got to be two of the toughest arcade games ever. And it's a shame because they're glorious looking games, they really are. But they're just so difficult. I mean, the difficulty level has been ramped up tenfold. Even the home conversions, and that's why I've always maintained that arcade games don't really make particularly good home conversions, because arcade games are designed, you probably find that the average arcade game, platform game, is actually quite a short game. I mean, games that have lives in them technically can run on and run on and run on. It's like an infinite. But games, I mean, I don't know how many levels Ghosts and Goblins has. Is it 6 levels or something? You'll probably find that they don't last that long. But there's probably very few people have actually completed them, so they don't have to be long games. And because they're so bloody difficult, then you know there's no requirement for it. So yeah, when you port an arcade conversion onto a home computer, it's quite a short-term sort of satisfaction that you get from the thing. And you know, if you make it too easy, then the person completes it too really quickly. Then they'll be thinking, well, that's $39.99 that I'll never get back again. But then on the other side of the coin, they make it too difficult, like, you know, case in point, Ghosts and Goblins. You can't get anywhere in it. So yeah, it's a tough one. What games? In fact, I'm going to make this a sort of a question to the community. What would you reckon are the 3 hardest games that you've ever played? Another game which I've just come to mind as well, and it was on I think it was on the Xbox 360, was Ninja Gaiden. I'm sure, in fact, I think it came out in the Xbox, then it also came out in the Xbox 360. Now, I've not played that much, but again, it's one of these games, it is just fucking impossible. It is really impossible. I know I've read interviews in Retro Gamer, I can't remember what games it were, with programmers, and they've actually admitted to making games too difficult. You know, so yeah, I'm not a programmer, but I can imagine being a programmer trying to get the difficulty just right must be pretty difficult, because pretty difficult itself, because I suppose when you're writing the code, you're going to be playtesting it so much that, you know, you probably forget you're probably a lot better at it because you know all the ins and outs of the game. And unless a game's been play tested a lot, it's going to be difficult to pitch the sort of difficulty level just at the right level. So yeah, let me know, guys. Right, I'm going to pause this one last time. Back in a second. Right, just when I'm talking there about lives, when I've been doing my hang on a second, I'm going to have a wee cup of tea. I've got a cup of tea here, and it's stone cold. You ever notice if you pour yourself a cup of juice, whether it's a glass of cola, iron brew, water, whatever it is, and you leave it out, when you go to have a drink of it maybe after half an hour, it's obviously warmed up. You make yourself a cup of tea and don't drink it for an hour, it goes stone cold obviously, but it seems to go extra cold. Now, I don't know whether that's my imagination, but it does. You leave a cup of tea or a cup of coffee out, leave it out for a couple of hours, and it says it'll obviously cool down, but it seems to get extra cold. Now, I don't know whether that's maybe the milk in it, whatever, I don't know, no idea. But then if you leave a cup of milk out, it just gets, pardon me, it just gets warm. But you leave a cup of tea out, it seems to get extra cold. It's actually quite refreshing. I mean, I don't mind drinking cold tea or coffee. Anyway, I can't believe I'm talking about cold tea, cold cups of coffee on a Friday Waffle on a retro channel. Anyway, right, yeah. When I was doing one of my arcade perfects, in fact, not arcade perfects, the first three, that was the year that was. I've covered from 1975 right through to 1979. I mean, I've done the 1981, but I've not actually published it yet. And what was interesting, what I found, was that virtually all the games, but a couple, you know, maybe in 1979 or whatever, there was a few, but the very early games, they were all, rather than based on lives, it was just, they were timed. You know, you got maybe 90 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever it was, to play. There wasn't such a thing as lives, so in theory your game, it would only last for maybe 2 minutes and then that was it. So it didn't matter how good or bad you were at a game, you got your set time, then it was game over. I wonder why that changed. I mean, Space Invaders was probably the first video game that introduced lives. If anybody knows if that's incorrect, then please pop your comments down below. I'd be interested to know that. Yeah, Space Invaders, all the games before Space Invaders, even things like Boot Hill, it was just based on time. I don't think it mattered how many times you died. So really games then, they were written just as a form of entertainment. You know, you had your 2 minutes pleasure out of it, it was game over, and then you could either put more money in and have another game or else you walked away. But yeah, Space Invaders came along, obviously they introduced the whole sort of shooting things, but they introduced the lives, which obviously it meant that some people would maybe only get 30 seconds pleasure out of it because it was so difficult. But then if you got proficient at a game, it meant that you could play a lot longer. And I don't recall, I'm just trying to think, I don't recall any arcade games that have come out since Space Invaders that were set purely to a time limit. Yeah, there was games where you would have a maybe pole position, whatever it was, driving games, outrun, whatever it was. You had a time, what do you call it, a target time to reach. But if you got through that, then you would get the extended time. But the early games, you were given a fixed amount of time and then it was game over. Didn't matter how badly you were playing or how well you were playing, it was game over. So I wonder why did that change? Do you think companies felt that it was stopping people playing it? I mean, having lives, obviously, I don't know, it's one of these, it's a difficult one to think about. I mean, technically, if you're good at a game, if you're good at Space Invaders, you can play indefinitely. Whereas if they'd made Space Invaders, you played for 2 minutes and it was game over, then you're not going to get somebody playing it for 10 hours at a time. Don't know, it's interesting. It's interesting that it moved away from giving you a set amount of time to giving you lives. There was obviously a reason for that. I wonder why. Wonder why that was the case. Don't know. Anyway, it's food for thought. Right, guys. The last thing, it's just very, very quickly. It's a tip, top tip. I found out today, if you've got a PlayStation 4, I don't know how many of you actually do have one, you can actually plug in. Have I got the controller there? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. One of these things. Now, I do know you can actually use that on a PlayStation 3 as well. In here, at the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, there's an audio jack. You can actually plug a normal set of headphones straight into the controller and you get the sound through the headphones. So that's great for somebody like me who, my games console's upstairs and my bedroom is through that wall. So it means I can play games at night without disturbing anybody. So there you go. I didn't realise that. It was one of my mates told me about it today. So that's your top tip. You can use any set of headphones and just plug it into the wireless controller on your PlayStation 4. So there you go. Right, guys, that is it. It's been a bit of a stop-start waffle today. I don't know how long it's lasting. Probably not very long, which is probably a good thing. As usual, guys, I also want my subscribers has been going up a wee bit, which I'm delighted to see. Thanks to everybody, to any new subscribers. I really appreciate you doing that. Thanks to all my long-term subscribers for sticking with me. I seem to be getting a lot more comments and videos, which is great because that's what it's all about. It's all about being part of a community, talking about different things. I've got one of the chaps, Daniel Cordell. Daniel likes to comment. I mean, I must admit, Daniel, you've got a fantastic brain and knowledge of technical stuff when it comes to games. I mean, I think you're discussing about the ratio, the screen ratio of Final Fight or something. Now, I must admit that all that kind of stuff goes completely over my head. But yeah, you certainly like to comment and you always put a lot of real interesting stuff in your comments. So thanks for that. But thanks to everybody who takes time to comment, to like my videos as well. That is it, guys. I think I've nothing else to really discuss. Things are just going to be ticking over as normal. Monday's going to be that was the year that was. Wednesdays are Arcade Perfects, and then you've got the Friday Waffle on Fridays. Plans for the weekend. What am I doing? It was my daughter's birthday. When was it my daughter's birthday? It was my daughter's birthday on Wednesday, I think it was. Wednesday past, the 3rd of December. She's having a party thing, or a tea party, whatever it is, tomorrow. So I have been told basically to make myself scarce. So me and one of my mates, we're going up to Mulgai in Glasgow, and we're meeting up with a big bunch of guys. We're planning to run along the West Highland Way tomorrow. So yep, that's my plans. Hope you've got something exciting planned yourself. As usual, guys, yep, if you're watching this on Friday, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you're watching this on Saturday, I hope you're having a great weekend. And if you're watching this months away from when I actually recorded it, I hope you had a great weekend. As usual, guys, thanks for watching.